Hello. It is like 4:30 or something. But yeah, sorry. I decided to come to this park, or I say park, this walkway, because I like this place. It's a bit flatter than the other paths I was doing. So, plus I get to see really cool, like I get to see the fish and the dragonflies, and I don't know. There's a little less sun cover, but today's not too hot, so I figured it's kind of a perfect day for this. Anyway, so, just as a quick thing, I was reading my book for the past like hour and a half. So it'll take me like a minute or two to kind of get my bearings. Also, doesn't help that I was doing for lack of a better term, from the beginning until the end, aside from sleeping, I watched the entire 24-hour stream that Kumi did for, well, she does it every year, but this is her third year of doing it. And this year she did it for charity, for a bird sanctuary. And yeah, I think she ended up raising like $34,000. Oh, wait, no. Oh, that's right. At the very end, someone donated a lot and boosted it to like 41 or something. So that's cool. But yeah. So something weird happened. Okay. How's it going? Oh, what was that? Oh, okay. I kind of figured. I was like, okay. Have a good day. Okay. But yeah, it was a cool charity event. I think it raised, I think the final number was actually like 42,000. So, so yeah. But, it was fun. I may or may not have had a kind of shitty sleep because I was trying to stay up as long as I could. And I kept waking up because I had my headphones in, the earbuds. So, yeah. But, so, you might be wondering, like, okay, you're about to leave in a couple days. Why'd you just do this all of a sudden? And there's something, there's something kind of, I don't know, special about doing and sitting there and watching the 24-hour stream. I obviously really enjoyed the stream, but it was almost like a send-off of truly, it's not that I won't be able to do something like that in the future, but the reasons for me doing it will be different. Whereas in the past, I've always kind of filled up the kind of space that is just my, I don't know. It's like there's like sadness and feeling not necessarily. Sorry, I'm trying to like piece this together in a way that makes sense. I guess let me back up. For most of my life, I have used streams as a means to find joy and happiness when my daily life hasn't really felt that way. I remember back in like the COVID era and past COVID era, like 2021, 2022. Well, I say past COVID era, but like, up until basically from 2025 backwards, I've always kind of felt not just unhappy, but like fundamentally an outsider looking in to I'm gonna let this guy pass. How's it going? But yeah, I've always felt like an outsider. The way I care about people and the way other people care about people is so different on average. And that's not to say that I'm not trying to shame anyone. But it's an observation of like, I can both love someone unconditionally and kind of see the things that can help like progress them. And it's not like I'm not trying to make people progress or forcing them to learn or whatever. In the past, that definitely could have been a scenario I fall into. Especially when it comes to like my early 20s. I just didn't understand why people couldn't see what I saw. And so to me it was so obvious how fucking stupid a lot of this stuff is that we kind of get annoyed at or pissed at, that we fight over. And so for me, it just didn't make sense why everyone was so focused and has been so focused on like materialistic stuff. And I'll say, as a kid, I lived in a household that mattered, where that kind of stuff like collecting and, just like getting inundated and all of that stuff, that mattered. And I quickly kind of realized over time that the materialistic stuff. How's it going? That's sick. The guy had a really cool like unicycle that he was riding. It was like an auto unicycle. Very cool. But the materialistic stuff, it all kind of revolves around an internal thing, not an external thing. I'm depressed, therefore I think the only way to make myself less depressed is to look outside myself. And inevitably, you look at materialistic things and say, I won't be depressed if I get a car. I won't be depressed if I live in a nice house. I won't be depressed if I have a nice boyfriend or girlfriend. I won't be depressed if I go to the pool today. Things like that. And what I've noticed is, yes, these things can alleviate the depression or the sadness or the whatever, right? Could be any emotion or insecurity you have internally. But inevitably, it always comes back. It always comes back. It doesn't cure it. It just temporarily makes you forget that that's a thing that you're feeling. But you come home, you lay in bed, you give your mind time to unravel, and it comes back with a vengeance. And maybe you might even feel worse because that thing temporarily raised your level up a little bit on happiness and then pushed it back down. And so the difference in height between how you're feeling and like how you're feeling now versus how you're feeling when you were doing the thing. Okay, they're going somewhere else. The difference between how you're doing now of being depressed versus how you were doing when you were doing the thing is in stark contrast. And you're like, okay, well, it looks like I need to pursue more things, greater things, bigger things, because the things that I got, it only worked for a little bit. And then I started to, the novelty wore off, and now I'm like, well, but they didn't fix it. So I recognized this in my early 20s. And at the time, I didn't really have a way of kind of, I don't know. Hold on. How's it going? It's a great day out today. But, you know, in my early 20s, I didn't really have I didn't have an understanding of how to fix the internal stuff or to heal it. I just knew that the internal stuff was somehow important. But because of everything going on around me, I kind of pocketed that knowledge. And I'm like, I can't really deal with this now. I have to keep going and doing stuff. But it was like an acknowledgement that there was something there that we were just fundamentally doing wrong. And so I'm just like looking at the thing that was on there. So you kind of have this understanding. And for me, I started to see how vapid even my own standards of, like, you know, again, in my early 20s, it was like, well, everyone cares about skin deep, effectively. It's like, oh, I like when people look cute and pretty, and so anyone who looks cute and pretty must be good. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. They're just the ones that get the most attention because the outward appearance is attracting people to, like, interact with them. This is where I first kind of realized that fundamentally we treat people very differently depending on outward appearance. I say we. I'm saying as a whole, not saying an individual, but as a whole, on average, if you're interacting with someone who looks really attractive, you're going to act differently than someone who doesn't look very attractive. And, you know, we do this when it comes to, like, things like gardening. We weed the weeds. What are weeds? They're plants that are unwanted because of their appearance or the way they act in the garden. Why is it that a dandelion is considered a weed? Because it's a flower and it does look nice, but, you know, we've decided arbitrarily, at least in the US, I don't know about other places, but in the US, a dandelion is a weed. And why is it that grass is considered not a weed? Well, it's just simply because we like the way it looks on the ground. And it grows a certain way, and we're happy with it, and that's it. But all those sensibilities were all constructed based on bullshit. It was an arbitrary, this looks really nice, I like this. And then other people said, well, yeah, I agree, this does look nice. And that's it. But, you know, that doesn't mean that one thing is better or worse than the other. And the same thing goes with people. I distinctly remember doing the thing of trying to find someone to date based on external appearances only. I think that's just kind of natural that, like, when you're younger and that's what you see, you kind of just do it. But it just never worked out. And it's because I was looking not at the person, but I was looking at the external facade. And I kind of quickly realized that, you know, at one point in my early 20s, I was very physically fit. And I had a lot more attention when I was physically fit. And the moment that I gained weight, there was a subtle shift that I felt where when people were interacting with me, it was different. And there was a lot of preconceived notions of like, well, because he's heavier, there are certain things we can assume about him. It's the same thing for when someone is thinner. The opposite happens, where there's assumptions, but they're positive assumptions rather than negative assumptions. And some people just don't make assumptions at all, right? But that's not kind of the point here. I'm doing kind of an average overlook where you'll have, you immediately begin to notice the people that are genuinely kind and that have that internal kind of, the internal beauty. Because they treat people kind regardless of the way they look. And they also realize that everyone deserves, respect and dignity and all of this stuff. It doesn't matter whether they look attractive or not. And, I kind of use the attraction thing as a metric because it's, you have like blatant racism, right? Which is a form of discriminating based on outward appearance, right? But even within the same general, race, you have discrimination as well. It's just a lot subtler and more baked into the culture. And each individual culture that you grow up in has a different way that they enforce this. I don't doubt that there could be a culture where being fat is considered to be the peak of beauty. It's totally possible. And people who are thin would be shamed just as people who are fat are in other cultures. So this really isn't about this specific distinguishing thing. What it is about is a fundamental judgment based on whatever culture you're in. And so really, even among people who you think there's no way that there could be discrimination in some form, there inevitably will be something that bubbles up. Thinking about kids on the playground. Kids can be very kind and sweet, but kids can also be incredibly mean, depending on, whatever's going on out there on the playground. And I think it's really easy for us to not see and to miss the blind spots of what is inevitably the kind of the factor that we're using to discern all of this, which is the shell, the physical shell. That is where a lot of these judgments come from. And it can extend to the internal, but more often than not, it stops at the physical, because you don't really have too much of a it's easier if you point at someone and say they're fat, and fat's bad, therefore let's shame him or her, you know, or vice versa. Oh, you're too thin, you need to eat more. No one's gonna like you if you're a twig. You know, that kind of thing. So we kind of have these kinds of things show up. And it's all symptoms of the same issue. Why do we discriminate? Even on a subconscious level, why does discrimination happen? Is it because you genuinely dislike, oh, hi, rabbit. Hold on. How's it going? Oh, it's okay, little guy. It's a beautiful day out. Okay, so, you know, why does discriminating in any form happen? Well, fundamentally, there's something in common. It's not really about the actual thing, whatever it is, right? You could discriminate over the fact that someone wears the color blue, right? I'm at the pond. Wanted to see if there's any fish or little froggies. Is there any little froggers? Oh, yep, there's some fish. You want to see again? Here, let me. Oh, why'd you do that? Okay. See, there's a fish there in the background. Oh, the dragonfly. Little fishy. Swimming his little fishy way. Okay. Alright, sorry, I'm back. Just wanted to get a little gauge of how the fish are doing today. But yeah, okay, so getting back to what I was talking about. Fundamentally, there's this internal disharmony, and because you're not in harmony, oh my gosh, so many grasshoppers, they're all so little. They're little guys. There's this internal disharmony, and we point to outside and say, this is why I'm not happy. This is why I feel bad. This is why whatever. Oh, it's okay, little guy. You're okay. You're okay. And that bunny ran so fast. There's a lot more bunnies out. I guess it's the evening, so that makes sense. But Yeah, so there's this disharmony internally, and it manifests. This is where we get the idea of projection. Projection at its core is taking something that internally we're feeling or we're seeing, and then we project it onto someone else. And I've noticed the people who tend to be the most disharmonious with themselves tend to do this, where they'll say, why are you being such an asshole? Meanwhile, they're the ones who are doing the fucked up thing to you. Like, an example, someone dings your car with their door, and you're like, hey man, why did you do that? Like, come on. And then they're like, well, why'd you park your car so close? It's your fault. It's your fault that I dinged you, because if your car wasn't so close, I wouldn't have had to ding you. This is projecting the fact that, yes, in fact, the car was too close, and so they should have been more careful. But they weren't paying attention, they didn't care, all sorts of reasons, right? And so they ding your car, and then because internally they're like, oh, yeah, that kind of was fucked up, it's hard for them to face that, and so they project it outwards to kind of make it someone else's fault, so they don't have to look internally at the thing they're doing. So, getting back to it, discrimination is a similar way. People, if you notice, people who are the most self-conscious with their appearance are the ones who are the most venomous with their words when it comes to other people. Oh, did you see how gross that shirt that they were wearing was? Unbelievable. Well, why is the shirt gross? And even if you don't like it, like, why the fuck does that matter? But, again, it's not about the shirt. It's about the fact that they're insecure with their body. And instead of facing that and working through it, which again is an internal process, they choose to deflect it and put it on someone else so that then they will feel better because they're shaming someone. Why is it that they feel better? Excuse me. It's not because they inherently get some sort of like buff, It's that they relieve the pressure that they were putting on themselves because they're putting the blame on someone else. If you say it's their fault, it can't be your fault also. So, okay, it's not your fault because it's their fault. Even if you're totally wrong, it's easy to just assume it's their fault. And the burden of internal soul disharmony goes away because you no longer have to look inside. It's like the equivalent of if you've ever had a scenario where you feel ominous trying to open a door, Maybe you're in your house home alone or whatever. And you make all sorts of excuses to not open the door. You don't feel well, suddenly there's something else you need to do, so on and so forth. But inevitably, if you can help it... Well, that frog really wanted to get in the water. Inevitably, you will figure out ways to not open the door. And when you do think of a valid reason to not open the door, suddenly it's like you feel way better. Oh, great, I don't have to open the door because I forgot something upstairs or whatever, right? It's a similar idea. I'm gonna step a little closer. Hi, guys. Yep, hi. Let's just see if there's any cool things floating around in here. Okay. I don't know what's going on over there, but... I mean, you know, there's dragonflies. I kind of think there might be another, like, area over there. Oh, it was bikers. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I like this area, though. It's really pretty. Okay. All right. Done enough looking. So, okay. So I'm pointing this out. And what does it actually mean? Why am I bringing this up? As long as you continue to look for external validation or to point the finger at someone else, it's not your fault, it's their fault. As long as you continue doing this, what you're doing is not, it's a temporary relief for an internal problem that your heart / soul / whatever you want to call it is recognizing. It's recognizing that you're out of alignment and that you need to do something about it. How do you do something about it? You dig internally and start asking questions. You know, again, it's the inner work. And you can do inner work in all sorts of ways. But inevitably, you have to look inward. And no one else can do that for you. So, you know, you have a scenario where, you know, millions and millions of people are running around looking for external validation, anything external to keep them from doing the one thing that's going to make them actually happy. And so this is kind of the shift that happened in my 20s, where it's like I started to notice more and more it's not the external that really has any bearing on your feelings at all. Your feelings, your thoughts, and just like in general, quite literally, you can just discard the external world in favor of internal enlightenment and internal satisfaction. Now, I'll say, this is where you get people like monks. Are monks evil, bad, whatever? No, of course not. They're an evolutionary step in understanding this. They see that the external world is not how they internally heal and internally grow. So they look inward and then say, how do I look inward? What do I do? And then you go to a monk order or, a monastery, whatever, right? You go to religion and you devote yourself fully to something else, whether it be a pursuit of God and, a religion or an ideal. You can take like vows, and these things help you open the door towards understanding that the external world doesn't give you the things you actually are looking for internally. Why is it that a farmer can be completely content and happy and fulfilled in life, but someone who's the CEO of a Fortune 500 company cannot? It's because the farmer realized that the things that he really cares about, he or she really cares about, it's not something that money is going to get you. Money can't buy you happiness. It can buy you things to stave off looking at yourself, and it can make you momentarily joyful, but it won't help you in the long run. You cannot find it that way. And this is kind of the fundamental shift that people like monks, people that go to organized religions, they're looking for a way to train the internal, to figure out how to delve deeper. The funny thing is, yeah, that is one way you can figure it out, but you don't have to. And in fact, most of the time, you're going to get caught up in something else, which is equally disruptive towards truly working on yourself, which is thinking again that other people have the answer, that I have the answer, that some Buddhist person has the answer, that a bishop has the answer. None of those people have your answer. And as long as you continue thinking, okay, it's not the external things, not physical things, it must be something that some person's mind has. It's not. Because, and this is the thing, we each individually have different paths that we're walking. This is why I say my path is the wizard path. It is not the path. It is not even a path that I suggest everyone do. It is just a path that I have walked that I think is valuable. Is it the only way to get to a place? No. Is it even the best way to get to a place? No, it's not. I wouldn't recommend people go through what I went through to understand what I understand. Because that fucking sucks. So I wouldn't want people to go through that. And since you can't live the exact same life I live, there's no way that my path is perfectly suited for you. But what I have discovered is there are some fundamentals that work on all paths. These are the things that I think are very important for people to just know about. Because, you know, what works for me, doing a walk every day, this may not be what works for you. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to do anything that I do. But I think fundamentally, what is valuable is knowing that, number one, the internal is the thing you have to work on. Now, you don't have to work on it in this life. If you choose to ignore it, that's totally fine. You will eventually work on it. But at that same token, if you do start working on it, that doesn't mean you're suddenly going to get some sort of enlightenment that's going to make you become some powerful mind god or something, right? And I will say, most people, they don't come here to do a really crazy journey. Instead, it's small little incremental lessons. It's small things where, you know, maybe you have a wife and kids, and raising your kids with just that little bit more of understanding might be all that you need and all that you ever wanted in this life. And you'll be totally content with that. That is okay. And that's where we get into this trap that I was kind of talking about. The trap of the mind. It is a mind trap where inevitably you lose all meaning on external stuff, where it doesn't matter at all. So, because it doesn't matter, why does it matter where I live? Why does it matter where I go? Why does it matter who I talk to? Because nothing matters. And you get this nihilistic kind of perspective. And I fell victim to it, where it's like, yeah, nothing does matter. And so the first kind of thought is, if nothing matters, why do anything? It's a good question. The ultimate answer is, you don't have to do anything. And when you realize that, you're like, fuck. I can just rot in my bed and it doesn't matter. True, you can. You can, in fact, do that. Is it advisable? No. No, it's not. But no one's going to come and stop you from doing that. So really, how do you get out of that trap, the mind trap? How's it going? Well, you first have to realize that because nothing truly actually matters physically, it means you have the freedom to decide your own outcome on how you want your life to be lived, because there's no wrong answer. So it goes from completely nihilistic, in view of nothing matters, to now everything matters, because there is no pressure on you to pick the right thing. There is no paralysis around having to make the perfect decision. You just be yourself, and boom, you do what you want. If that means waking up, being a McDonald's worker, and coming home, playing video games with your buds, if that is truly what is calling you, and what you truly like want on a deep level, then fucking do it. Who cares? If no one else thinks that that's a great job, or if no one else thinks that that's an exciting life, fuck them. Who cares? Nothing matters. So because nothing matters, the thing that you think matters is what matters. And other people who will sit there and try to convince you that what you think matters doesn't, fuck them. Let them try and think that they're helping you by trying to convince you to do something else. So this is the mind trap. And once you kind of release yourself from the mind trap, this is when you kind of get to the core of you. And so, circling all the way back around, oh, what the fuck is that? Is that like a... It's like a little trolley or something, I don't know. Oh, it's on the side. Maybe it's just timber? Yeah, it looks like just a bunch of stacked timber or something. But anyway, so because you get to decide what matters, and because you get to decide who and what have meaning, then inevitably only you can truly figure out the things that do actually matter, because it's subjective. If I think rocks are really cool, you may think rocks are fucking dumb, and we're both right. This is that quantum, like, duality where you can have two people right about something because to them, their perspective is correct. But the thing linking them is free will and the ability for us to make our own, we create our own reality. If VTubers are what matter to you, then VTubers can become the most important thing in your life. Now, if you're happy with that, great. But if you're not happy with that, then you're fucking up. You're fucking yourself. No one else is fucking you. It's just you fucking yourself. Because you get to decide what matters. So if you're not satisfied with what's going on, why are you doing it? No one's forcing you to do it. You can make the illusion, which again, I go back to the idea of projection. You can project your feelings of unsatisfactory stuff on someone. I don't like my job. Okay, why don't you leave your job? Yeah, but it's kind of, I get paid a lot. Okay, but like, why are you doing it? You don't like it. Yeah, but it's my boss's fault. If I had a different boss, I would love my job. Is that really true? No, that's not really true. And so, because you kind of go through this, you eventually realize how powerful you being able to decide what matters and what doesn't truly is. Because when you do, this means that you have full control over whether you're happy, whether you're content, satisfied, all of this stuff. It's all in your control. No one can take away your happiness. People can do things that will potentially piss you off, take your shit, fire you from your job, potentially hurt your friends or family, things like that, right? But you can choose to not let those things that are happening change your internal. So this is where we get to the loop back to why is it that I did the VTuber stuff and I did the 24-hour. It feels like a send-off on a life that I chose, but that no longer serves me. It is a life that I used to love, and there are pieces of it that I still enjoy, but the way that I interact and the reasoning behind why I gain joy from those things is totally different. You know, I talk about the idea of why do I watch Kumi? She's the newest in the line of VTubers I've watched throughout the years. But why is my internal self attracted to watching Kumi specifically? It's because, to me, her internal self is brightly shining, kind of saying, I am here and I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. And, you know, she says, she's like, oh gosh, this sucks, blah, 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 whatever, when some things happen, you know, her chat, like, spamming the fucking good girl meme, or redeeming the good girl sound effect, or, you know, whatever else it is, right? Her, like, doing the punishment wheel, and spinning something that she's like, oh my god, I can't believe I got this, right? Inevitably, when you break it all down, she actually does enjoy all of this. That's why, even though, to an outside observer, it may look like there's some sort of weird fucking chat bullying or whatever it is, right? The people in chat understand that she's genuinely having fun streaming. And so everyone kind of gets swept up in her energy, and they just enjoy the stream with her. And Kumi's not the only example of this. Every single person that watches a VTuber, a YouTube video, a TikTok, or whatever, the people that they follow on a consistent basis, that's what they feel when watching whoever it is. And I'm not talking about the random TikTok that pops up. I'm talking about the guy or girl that inevitably you go, okay, I'm not just going to scroll past and watch and hope that they pop up again. I want to see all of their TikToks, and I want to follow them, and I want to see what other content they do. And so you go, okay, I saw this really funny thing. Now I'm going to go onto YouTube and I'm gonna follow them on YouTube. And then I find out that they stream. So I'm gonna go on a stream. And then I find out their stream is really fucking fun. And then I become a fan of them, right? This is kind of the way it plays out. So I'm not saying that anyone else is any better or worse than Kumi. She just happens to be the one that I resonate with on a deeper level, where I can see her soul, the internal part of her light up when she streams. Because, in that same way, it's like I can see how freeing it is for her to stream the way she does. And that resonates with me on a deep level of being yourself, and the people that match with your brand of you just show up. If people, I'll give you an example. If people are freaked out by the fact that Kumi talks about farting and she belches, well, you know what? She doesn't resonate with you. And that's okay. Just as I don't resonate with other VTubers. Same thing with YouTube, right? If you don't resonate with stuff that I'm saying, you don't watch it. And you watch something else. It's just that simple. And that's why I always go back to take off the mask and just be yourself, because it saves you so much trouble. When you take the mask off, you can just be yourself, and the people will gravitate towards you that fit with you. And depending on how fast or slow you grow in life, some people that you used to match with won't resonate with you because maybe you grew faster than they did. Or vice versa. Maybe they grew faster than you did. And it's nothing against anyone specifically. It's hard to find someone who matches your energy on that same level and can continue matching that energy. That's what I've realized is the hardest thing for me. Because I can resonate with someone on a really deep level, and then a month later, I can be like, wow, that person's still at this level of understanding, and I've kind of moved past them. And I'm like, damn, I don't know what to do now because they're just not as fast as I am. And, in earlier phases of my life, that's also been the same in the opposite, where in my younger years, I didn't understand why some people I would click with and then they would just disappear. They just wouldn't interact with me in like 6 months. And it's like, why? Now I understand why. Because just as for them, I wasn't matching their rate of growth, so too is it in my shoes now, in my case, where now I'm not matching, or other people are not matching the growth that I'm doing. And this inevitably is kind of a scenario we all kind of go through. How's it going? But yeah, so I think this is why, if we don't recognize that this is a factor when interacting with people, it can get really confusing. And you can kind of like, you're like, what? I had such a good connection with this person, and then they suddenly disappeared. What's the deal? Well, odds are either you're going too fast for them or they're going too fast for you when it comes to their growth internally. And so you kind of naturally just get split because you just don't have the same anchors. You're not working on the same things. This is kind of, this is a scenario that we see time and time again when it comes to like with school. If you're all in the same class, you inevitably have common ground in the class. So you're all working together, you have stuff to talk about, even if it's just class related. And so it ties everyone together. But the moment you finish that class, and maybe you don't have classes with those people in the next quarter, or the next semester or trimester, or whatever it is, right? Whatever your schooling system looks like. You go, well, I was such good friends with them in my math class, but now that we're in different math classes, we're suddenly not friends anymore. What happened? Same thing. You don't have that commonality tying you together. And for me, the commonality that I find to be the most important in my life at this moment, that commonality is growth. If we're at a similar level and then we're working on growing at a similar pace, that sounds like a connection that will stay around in the long term. Because every other scenario where I've tried to keep people around or tried to help them, artificially elevate them in some way or whatever, it's never worked. Now my battery's about to die, and I'm basically here. So to close out, I am basically taking Kumi's stream and that 24-hour thing as a means to kind of send off the best and worst parts of the life that I had been living up until this point. And instead, I get to explore this new life where I take the best pieces of that previous life and integrate them into this new life I'm coming into. So that's it. That's what I'm doing. And yeah, hopefully you get entertained as I do this and you see kind of what's possible. So, all right, see you later. Have a good night. Bye.